What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a movie that was released last year that I'd heard a ton of buzz about, but hadn't had the opportunity to check out yet. And I was really interested in this movie. Number one, the title of the movie just pulled me in immediately. I love films that have really eye-catching titles, and I read some reviews of this, and people said that it was really well made. And also, I wanted to watch this movie because when I was growing up, one of the most important people in my life was my grandmother. I loved her very dearly, and after reading the title of this movie, I was like, oh boy, I'm sure that this is going to be an emotional gut punch to me. But I was excited to watch it regardless, and the film I'm going to be talking about with you today is How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies. How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies is directed by Pat Boonnitipat. M, a university dropout low on money and luck, volunteers to take care of his terminally ill grandmother in hopes of pocketing an inheritance. So I was really excited to watch this movie. Like I said, eye-catching title. The subject matter of the film interests me, and I absolutely loved this movie. I thought it was incredibly beautiful. I thought it was very real and authentic emotionally, and it really does a great job balancing comedy with genuine drama. And it's really interesting, and I'll talk about it as the movie goes on. This movie has a lot of glaringly positive reviews, but it also has some negative reviews that say that it came across as a little like Hallmarky or inauthentic emotionally. And as someone who has watched several family members pass away to cancer, I felt like most of the conversations in this movie and the interactions that characters had with one another came across as very genuine and real and moved me in a very sincere way emotionally. And I'm excited to tell you about the movie today. So at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to M, who is a young kid that likes to stream video games on his laptop for a very small audience, and he lives at home with his mother. And we see him going about his day-to-day life, and he often goes to visit his grandmother. And his grandmother has a very distinct personality. She lives her life in a very specific way, and we're introduced to his uncles and their families, and they actually go and visit a grave site at the beginning, and M's grandmother is like very specific on how to prepare this ritual for the grave site as like a form of respect for the people who are buried there, and he kind of just blows everything off. Well, early on in the film, we're introduced to his cousin, who is currently taking care of an ailing relative as well. And she's doing it and essentially says, I'm doing this because I know that he's going to make me his favorite in his will, and I'm going to make a ton of money off of him. And he ends up dying, and of course, that's what happens. She ends up getting a ton of money from him because of him passing away. And so M sees all this and eventually is told that his grandmother has been diagnosed with terminal cancer and that she might have a year left to live. And so he decides to leave his house that he lives at with his mother to go live with his grandmother in hopes that he will become her favorite and that she will leave him a ton of money behind so that he can live the life that he wants to live. And the entirety of the film is M and his grandmother living their day-to-day lives together as her illness progresses. So like I said, I loved this movie, and I think there's a ton of positive things to talk about. For starters, the performances in this movie. I loved the cast in this movie, especially the actress who plays M's grandmother. Just a genuinely authentic performance where each and every one of these characters in this movie has a very distinct personality. One of M's uncles is a horrible gambler. He steals money all the time. One of his other uncles tries to seem very invested in his grandmother's life, but he is very wealthy, and you can tell that he's just trying to add on to his wealth. M's character obviously gets into this whole situation for the wrong reasons. The actress who played M's cousin, who does like online sex work, is also the one who is taking care of that ailing relative. I thought she gave a really great performance. The actress who played M's mother, and they all have distinct enough personalities that give the movie a lot of life. It really feels like you're watching real people in a family, and I appreciated that. I thought that each and every story added more to the movie to create a very satisfying experience overall. I also really appreciated the attention to detail in the cinematography and the color grading in this movie. There's actually some really nice shots in this film that do a great job immersing you into the world, especially in the area that they live in. There's a lot of capturing the life in the area, and then like things at the gravesite and just different places that they travel. I really like his grandmother sells kanji at this cart, and he helps her prepare it day to day and like work at the shop with her because she's starting to have a harder time moving around. And I really liked, getting a glimpse into the day-to-day life of this culture and seeing how things operate and get a little bit of understanding as to his grandmother grandmother's belief system, and I really liked that part of the movie as well. The musical choices in this movie, I liked them for the most part. There's sometimes that they get a little bit overly sentimental, which I feel like is some of the people's complaints, where it can come across to some people as emotionally inauthentic. It's not overly done in a way that's too annoying. There was a couple of scenes that I noticed it more than others, and I think they could have toned back on that a little bit, but that's a very minor complaint for the movie. And like I said, my favorite part about this movie is I feel like the genuine authenticity of the emotional core of the movie is what makes it work so well. As I said before, one of the closest people in my life growing up was my grandmother. She taught me how to cook. She taught me my love for food and cooking in general. And if there's one thing that my grandmother taught me more than anything else, it's like caring about other individuals with a complete and whole and genuine heart. And that's what I loved so much about her, is that it didn't matter who you were. If you came into my grandmother's life, she was going to care for you and love you, especially if the people around her cared and loved for this person. And what I love about this is, our character M in this movie, him and his grandmother have a very distinct age gap. They've both gone through very different things in their life. They've experienced life firsthand in a very different way, which creates a sense of separation. And there's always dynamics in family as to how things work with child, parent, grandparent. There's like these dynamics that I feel like are almost unspoken that most people can understand. Not every family dynamic is conventional by any means, but I feel like there's a structure that people are typically used to. And it was interesting to watch in this movie where you have this grandmother who has lost her husband. She's living at home in this house. And every time they come together, the family seems concerned for her, but they only come around when it's really convenient. And you feel like you're missing out on a part of this person's life. And M's character gets into this for the very wrong reasons. He wants to do this because he's like, well, if she dies, she's going to give me all this money. But when he starts spending time with her, he finds that she is just an incredibly fascinating and wonderful individual who he genuinely loves with his whole heart, and just grows fonder and fonder with her as time goes on. And that's what I liked about this movie as well. M is a fundamentally flawed character. He's not a good person when he gets involved in this. He's doing this for all of the wrong reasons, but that interaction completely and totally changes his perspective. And what I really liked are the more quiet, nuanced moments when M's grandmother finds out about the way that her kids or her grandkids are doing things that just hurt her inside. But being this figure that is so important to the family, she doesn't really speak up on it. And I feel like I see that in family structures a lot, where the grandparents will understand that something is going on, but in order to keep the family whole and not blow things out of proportions, they keep it to themselves. And I thought that there was something really poignant and emotionally resonant about that in this movie, as like she really keeps her mouth shut about a lot of things that she could confront head on and sort of fix. And then there's things like her son that is very wealthy wants her to move out of her house and live with him, but there's clearly intentions behind the scenes of like he just wants more money. And M, as he's starting to develop more of a relationship with his grandmother, really genuinely wants to stay at her house and take care of her so she can live her life the way that she wants to live it. And I just thought there were so many amazing little nuances in the relationship building throughout the film that worked really well for me. There were some genuinely devastating emotional moments in this movie with M's grandmother, where it's just like seeing a person that has lived so much life break down in such an emotionally vulnerable way when confronted with their own mortality. It's hard things to sit with, but I think it's done in a really beautiful way, and it ties up perfectly in the third act. I just thought the way they ended this movie was absolutely brilliant. It really moved me to tears multiple times, and I think if any of this sounds interesting to you, you should 100% check this movie out. So have you seen How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was fantastic. I loved it, and it was really, really well made. As always, if you like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.